want to talk about this record because it's really it's fantastic. But there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff to talk about. And I wasn't even gonna. I interviewed you before when you released something with Darrell, and then I heard this record. I think it was on Saturday. I was watering my mother's plants, and I heard Move Your Feet, and it was really this great, beautiful invocation, and it's just I loved it. I heard everything I liked. There's a lot of gospel, everything, and I was like, wow, this is going to be a great record. And then I'm Nervous comes on, and I said, oh shit, Tim is afflicted by the same things that we all are.
Well, yeah, it's really kind of pervasive, isn't it? I mean, you'd have to be under a rock to not be feeling some of that effect of the web and devices and the fracturing. It's supposed to put us back together, but it kind of fractures us in a lot of ways.
It's like Los Angeles. It's all the good things that people say about it, and it lives up to be, and then all the bad stuff.
Yeah, right. So are you in Chicago?
I am.
All right.
But speaking of which, I'm not to keep beating on I'm Nervous. To me, if it wasn't you, and you wrote the song, I wouldn't. I was hearing Steve Goodman on it.
Oh.
And I heard Bogan, Martin, and Armstrong like backing them up on a song like that, and you knew Steve, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew Steve. Steve was a great inspiration. He was one of the first guys that was legitimate, successful, seemed to me very successful artist who took me in and said, you've got a lot to offer, and here's don't lose sight of the main thing. And he helped me really just with a few tips and encouragement. We got to know each other more as the years went on, and at Telluride, whenever he would play, he would have, or other places where we were in the same place, he would have us sit in with him, and it would invariably sing. We'd invariably sing "City of New Orleans" and try to get the chords right, which we never did, and "Mama Don't Allow," and it was just a given. And when he was sick, not the first time he was sick in the hospital, but I guess after I met him, he got really sick, and I'd seen him since, in the meantime. Anyway, I sent him the first Hot Rize mixes, our very first record, and he said it helped him in the hospital, and it just meant a lot to me that he would even listen. But he was a great entertainer, great songwriter and topical songwriter, and you write a beautiful love song, you also write a topical song like Talk Backwards or Lincoln Park Pirates or whatever. I just loved him.
And I heard, it was the first time I saw this clip. I think it was Bill Monroe playing with Jethro Burns. And Jethro starts out with a song, I forgot what it is, but it's like, not like Bill, like no one could do it like Bill, but he mentions Hot Rize.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know that. No, that's great.
That's amazing. That's like a blast from the past, name checking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Jethro, he was another guy, just wonderful personality and an incredible musician, and another guy just to hang out with him was fantastic. And I saw him once. We were both on Ralph Emery's Nashville Now show, which used to be on TNN, the Nashville Network, kind of a music and talk show.
This is bad.
I've got my lovely wife has just delivered me breakfast.
It's like a lovely breakfast as well as a lovely wife.
Yeah. Anyway, we're at the dressing rooms, Well, I was already there, and here comes Chet Atkins carrying a mandolin. And he walks in, and then a few minutes later, a guy with his arms full with a paper bag, which turned out to be a 12-pack of beer. And then Jethro, and I'm going, man, you're a badass. You got Chet Atkins for your chauffeur. They were brothers-in-law. And he just brought him down to the studio, and that was a 12-pack of beer they had backstage. And we got to hang out all day, and we did that at several events.
That's amazing. This is another strange thing. While I was listening to your song "Firing Line," the last cut on the record. Now, you wrote that, correct?
No, that's written by my friend J.D. Hutchison.
Now,
No.
where's JD from?
He's from Belmont County, Ohio, kind of near where I grew up in West Virginia, near Wheeling. And he was a inspiration for a long time as well. A great singer, songwriter, bluegrass player, philosopher, poet, actor.
I hadn't heard that song. I actually went online looking for it. I don't know if it had been recorded before, but go ahead.
It has been recorded by JD and by some other people, but it's kind of there. I'm actually just writing an obituary for his brother, Zeke. The two of them had this band in the mid 70s or late 70s, and they were very influential on a lot of people around that area, and they played nationwide, but they imploded, and they're kind of underground.
What I was going to say
is important to a lot of people, but they're underground.
Exactly. I mean, that's probably why I haven't heard the song since 1993. I used to play it, and it brought up a lot of fine memories. I used to play at Sarah Elizabeth Campbell's Bummer Night at La Zona Rosa, and some out-of-town songwriter singer, she did an a cappella version of Ready on the Firing Line. It blew my mind. And I was thinking, like, in those days there was no internet. No one could promote their stuff digitally.
Right.
I had no idea.
JD spent some time in Austin, and he got a cover by Robert Earl Keen, one called the Coming Home of the Son and Brother Again, and he made John and his brother Zeke, they made a big mark whenever they met someone, and John was everywhere. He's everybody know. There's a lot of people that know John well. David Bromberg, people like that. He's just he's the kind of guy that would like when he went to Los Angeles, he was a big fan of Clarence White and the Kentucky Colonels. He said, I'm just going to find him somehow. I'm going to find Clarence White. And he said, do you have any idea how many C. Whites there are in the Los Angeles phone book? Sure enough, he finally found him. He went to his house. He hung out with him. They went to a club where he was playing with a husband and wife duo, and he was playing electric. And on the break, he took John aside and borrowed the woman's rhythm acoustic guitar and showed him all the licks that he played on various Kentucky Colonels things, and was just really really open to him.
I would have told the guy, instead of being such a pessimist, I would have said, all right, lots of whites. Look up Dillard. There's some other names. Let's go. Let's be creative about this. That's wow. I love that whole. Did you ever get to see Clarence White play?
No, I never saw him live. No.
And Marty Stewart is a nice one to own his personal guitar and kind of keep up that beautiful tradition.
Yeah, Marty's a fantastic musician, and he knows so much about the history and all the music, and he was a great Clarence style guitarist in a certain point there. Of course, he got his guitars, his acoustic guitar, as well as his string bender Telecaster. And he kind of made it a point to learn his stuff, so you could hear him. Yeah, it's all related. It's all interconnected.
Right. And look, I mentioned three songs, and there's a lot more, but I won't go through each track. But as said before, I love. I'm a big fan, so there's always the right amount of joy and humor and soul on all your records. That's why I'm a lifelong fan since I'm 23. But I'm not going to tell you. No, I'm 50 now. But anyway, time's flown. It's got all of that, but there's something about this record. It did go deep, and it seemed to be a reaction to this insanity that we've been, living in for the last, 2 years.
Well, we have the 2 years, but we have like 5 years really. That's really kind of more like it.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it's it's a culmination of a lot of things, but yeah, the Trump years, the beginning of Trump's political career to now it definitely affects it. It's not so much about the pandemic really, but it kind of comes at a time when I had the time to sort of reflect, and I mean I finally had a time where I got to sit still for months and months and months, and that's kind of one of the recipes for songwriting. It just went deeper because I had more time. It's funny. I kind of turned a corner in a way with this record because it does have a lot of that social justice kind of themes, I guess. I'm trying not to preach, but more just to say what's going on or illustrate what's going on, which is what an artist can do the best. That's really the best we can do. I mean, we can help affect change just by really underlining things that people already know. So I think that's what I try to do here.
well, it's compelling, even on the song about Jefferson's daughters.
Oh.
Look, you're from Wheeling, West Virginia. I don't know, were your parents from West Virginia as well?
Yes. Well, my mother's from Nebraska.
Okay, well,
My dad grew up there.
it's you were born into a segregated world, and it's just, the numbers add up. I mean, it's just, you were there. You had an early memory of Martin Luther King, and the civil rights era, but also and the triumphs that followed that. Did you think that in 2020 we would, or 2021, excuse me, that race is still needed in the social dialogue? It depresses me.
No, it's very depressing, and it's crazy to think about how deep seated it is, and of course I think we reached a sort of a watershed moment with George Floyd, and also the fact that people were stressed by the pandemic. It kind of exploded in that atmosphere, and it's a very good thing, and yet, I mean, it just points to the work that needs to be done. It's far from done, gosh. But the idea, like there were some illegitimate kids, one in my dad's immediate family, that surfaced years later. But imagine learning that your relatives are of color and you didn't even know they existed. Many generations.
Like the Jeffersons.
Yeah, I mean, I knew the story of Sally Hemings and of those children, but then realizing that some of them passed as white, it was really kind of another fascinating aspect of it. That's that whole, there's a whole subset of questions about that, like people within the community of color that judge each other by their color. It's just kind of so many layers of an onion, and it's such a prototypical American situation and problem. It's like it's the layers of a big old onion, man. You got to keep getting at the center.
You know what? I just thought of something great. My friend, I don't know if you know Paul Metza in Minneapolis. He's one amazing songwriter, but he said, "Listen, man, folk singers, we're the first responders to this stuff."
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, we're kind of the bards. We're like the old minstrels, and we just kind of write the story. I read a book once where the minstrel was traveling on the Viking ship, and the Viking warrior went down below decks and discovered him writing two different stories of the upcoming battle, one where they lost and one where they won. And he just kind of got really pissed at it. But that's what we're always kind of looking at the news and trying to figure out a song. We just want something to sing. We're going to sing whatever is the thing to sing about.
And you know what? Even to get even more esoteric, or I don't even know if it's even that, or existential, but you being one of those first responders, actually see, you're a musician. You make music. Music is a joining force, and you've seen it work multiculturally from the bandstand because you're bringing them together, right? And,
Yeah, it's yeah.
and you know, and I guess maybe that means you got to start working a lot harder as soon as the this whole thing is done. No, but it's a burden. Obviously, you do it for fun, but you know, this record and some of these topics are they're coming from the same place that, you know, like sort of a heartbroken America has because of this divisiveness. That was the thing I hate about the Trump presidency. I personally needed him out because I wanted my mom and parents who are getting into their 80s just to be able to chill and not die of heart attacks. Because
no kidding. No, it's I don't know. I got a lot of writers get to this place a lot sooner in their careers, and I started out. I just like the sound of music, and I like the idea that I could do something I could do. I had an aptitude, and it was a sort of a self-worth kind of project, all along. But just the enjoyment of it and choosing songs was always about, oh, that's kind of a cool song, and I don't know exactly why, but I would just follow my nose. And now it's like more of an overview of everything and trying to learn history, with the idea that you're going to understand things and maybe know how to react. I kind of got to the point where I don't know how to change any kind of course in history. It's too complicated. It's always been fucked up, really. Problems all along, and
yeah.
But I'm just older, 67. It's kind of time to sort of level with myself and with my audience. But like I say, I might have turned a corner. But it's funny. Like there's a few people who have reacted to this in funny ways, and so, there are a couple have said, "Well, I'll never buy that guy's records again." But most of those people are people who never did begin with. It's funny. It gets another kind of attention, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay. I mean, it's just who it is. It's who I am. I don't know what'll happen. I don't know if there would be fallout or not. I don't think so. I don't think anything problematic.
No, I don't either. Because people just want to be able to chill and go out and enjoy themselves. It's nothing more than that. The others who want to storm the Capitol, that's a different story. Mm. But and I'm not even a political person at all. But it's interesting though. I was thinking you've played your music has probably been on a lot of PBS Ken Burns related content. I know that you haven't you contributed in some ways musically to the script?
I don't know that I've had anything on. Well, I did have something on the Prohibition one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's it's definitely part of the fabric there. But it's the music it just keeps leading me on. I just I'm still kind of its captive.
Are you still inspired? Do you find yourself inspired weekly, daily?
Yes. I kind of go back to established sort of regulars, greatest hits, stuff that I've always been interested in. I kind of learn more about it as I go. I've been, I don't know, last weekend we were really big onto Dan Reeder, listened to a lot of Dan Reeder because we were someplace where there was no cell service. So all of a sudden I couldn't scroll around Spotify. And so one of the few things I had downloaded on my phone that actually I could pull up. But, it doesn't, old time music and jazz, the web is a fantastic thing where when you have, like you're reading a biography of someone, a musical biography like Louis Armstrong, then somebody like that, you can listen to the tracks now. Whereas before you'd have to sort of imagine that. Now you can just pull it right up, and I don't know. Like I say, the web is a great. You said the web's a great thing. It's really helped us a lot, and it's also kind of misdirected us. But and that ability is fantastic. To be able to look anything up in a second.
there's a great. I actually love to hear you play the trumpet intro for, I think it's West End Blues, but on mandolin. I think someone.
Oh, that'd be good.
You've done a lot of Irish music. You know, I know O'Brien is Irish, but were you connected to that when you were a kid growing up?
No, my parents, my dad was kind of Irish on St. Patrick's Day, you know, and the rest of this, he would sort of refer to it, but he wasn't really interested in it. I had to look to some cousins of his to find out the background and actually to make the pilgrimage to find the old homestead and that stuff was through a cousin of his. But yeah, there wasn't much of, I mean, there's an Irish community in Wheeling, where I'm from, Wheeling, West Virginia, but the steel mills were dying when I was growing up, and so they weren't bringing new people in. The new immigrants weren't coming to Wheeling. Whereas when my great grandfather emigrated from Ireland to Wheeling, it was already a burgeoning industrial potential there with iron business and also the transportation with the railroad coming to Wheeling from the East Coast. And then before that, just a road and then a bridge across the river made Wheeling a big center. And so it was like a real place where Irish people moved. They knew there was work. Just like there was in New York, the bigger cities. He went right there for some reason. I think there were some relatives, and I can't figure out who they were, but he went there right away. But I like that story, and I like the Irish community. I love the music. When I was growing up and starting to play guitar, I was learning some stuff from Doc Watson, like Turkey in the Straw, little fiddle tunes, kind of Soldier's Joy and that kind of thing. McLeod's Reel or whatever. I realized, on TV, there'd be like a Barry Fitzgerald movie and they would be dancing and they would be playing one of those tunes. And I'm going, oh, that's Irish music. Bluegrass is kind of like Irish music. And then somebody said, oh yeah, and then you make those connections. There's always a door behind the door that you open up. You open up into one room and you say, oh, this is kind of cool. And then you see this other door and you go, oh, before that was this. You get back to the roots of things pretty fast. And, with the Beatles, you hear, you get turned on to Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly. With the Stones, you get into Muddy Waters. Pretty soon you're into Robert Johnson. Pretty soon you're into fife and drums. Pretty soon you're, same thing with bluegrass. You go back and the old string bands and the old black string bands too is like kind of a real great lodestone to mind. Anyway.
Yeah, but you were probably picking that up. Let's say, I mean, you come across an old record, while you're in Hot Rize or just sort of carving out your own, little niche with you and your sister. It's probably I mean, have you gotten to Cuban music yet? That stuff's the great.
No, I love Cuban music. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I don't profess to know it, but I love all the different permutations of ethnic kind of music that I can find. There was a great thing that came out not long ago. It was a reissue of stuff, and I think it's on Dust to Digital, and it's Excavated Shellac, it's called. And there's about 40 tracks that are remastered, and they're all from a certain kind of 78 disc lathe, They're beautiful sounding. And they're from all over. They're from, all over Asia, all over Europe. And you see the differences, you hear the differences, but you also hear the similarities, and you see ways into something old, and that makes it. You find very simple things become exotic and fresh again. It's kind of like learning a different instrument. That was always a good way for me to get excited again. The real simple things on the piano that I can play seem really powerful because I don't know any better. So it's kind of good, kind of distracts you. John Prine would say, you kind of have to distract yourself to write a song. He would write songs while he cooked. He said, you're chopping vegetables, you're doing mindless stuff with your body, but your mind is left to wander. So that distraction kind of helps you look around the corner sometimes.
Yeah, it's nice when you're visited by a distraction, you know.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Do you find your songwriting muscles as strong as it ever was because you got to keep doing it? Was there a point where you're like, wow, I'm doing this a lot more and I'm happier with the results? Because anyone when they start writing songs, they're not very good. And then 3 years later, 4 years later, you have several albums later. You know, as a writer, where do you feel like you are right now?
Well, I think my craft is, I've honed the craft a good bit, and it's still a problem to get around to it. But sometimes, you know, it's just things pop out and you go, okay, I know I'm not in a hurry about it, but I generally am sort of, I do kind of respond to a deadline. And so like with this record, I'm going, well, geez, I've spent 6 months, the first 3 months of this pandemic, just kind of saying, oh, this is a nice vacation. And then the next couple of months, I was learning some things that I've always put off, like learning how to record with Pro Tools at the house. And I was learning how to write music better, write it on the page. And then I went, geez, I better get some songs here. I haven't had a record out in a while, and I keep waiting for things to change back till we can restart again. So I guess I'm gonna have to do this on my own, or I'm gonna have to do it in a new way. And so a lot of it was recorded right here at the house. I did schedule 2 days at a proper studio and had the rhythm section and everything and the keyboard player, because I couldn't record that here. And then just kind of sweetened it and added a lot to that. We did 3 tracks from the record right here in this room where I'm talking. So it's, you know, it was a, you know, you feel self-worth is kind of like, okay, Tim, you've been slacking off. You can't just slack off until this is over. You better get something going. And so luckily I did.
You have to be your own inner ball buster.
Yeah, you do.
Because
Yeah.
it's your record label, right?
I mean, it's my record label.
Yeah,
I can complain.
like you're whipping yourself. It's a massive
Right.
tango of sorts.
Yeah, before I had a record label of my own, it was like, why doesn't that label spend more money for promotion on my records? And now I'm the label, and I go, why would I spend money promoting my records? You know.
One thing I'm interested in, you know, when with the whole sort of, well, never mind. I said that. Now, what I meant to ask was, when you're recording your own music now, and obviously you come from a tradition where as long as there was a good mic around, and picking up all the instruments, or like each person has its own mic and it's just acoustically beautiful and recorded. But you're obviously, you know, you mentioned the Beatles, you mentioned all this other great stuff. You're a record and a rock fan. So do you think of sound, you know, how you want a certain acoustic sound to be? What kind of mic to use? Like, are you becoming, or are you a good self-engineer?
Well, I can self-engineer. I mean, I just go by what I've learned. You know, but basically, you have to come up with something. You can capture it with a good mic, and there are a lot of possibilities and a lot of options. But there's classic ways of using them, and I can't intend to go to those. But and classic mics and all that. But it's mostly you have to have something prepared that is worth recording. You know, you have to have something that you want. You have an idea about what you want to put across, and also you have the ability. You have focused it. You have sort of formed it with a. And for me, it's like an instrument and a voice. If I can play the thing on one of the instruments and sing it and stay in time and know the words well enough to really express it, then other people can latch onto that and they add their thing. It's very collaborative. With the musicians that I've worked with, they respond very quickly, as long as you have something for them to respond to. So you know, I got to start with that. I got to work that up, and then it depends. You know, the bigger the band, the different. You sort of, it's a traffic direction problem. So you kind of, self-edit, and I think everybody does. It's a natural thing. I'm lucky to live in Nashville where there's so many great musicians that you could draw on. But on this one, I did reach to a little bit outside. I mean, I got Edgar Meyer involved again, which was nice.
Right.
I hadn't been, we're longtime friends, and he's collaborated before, but it's been a lot of years, so that was good. And another one was this guy Bo Ramsey, who played on 3 tracks, but particularly on When You Pray, he really added a wonderful thing. I knew his music through Greg Brown mostly. He accompanied Greg, and then now he's married to Greg's daughter Pieta, and they play together.
Oh.
And but Bo is just like this one of these great accompanying players. He's kind of like a fiddle player would be in a bluegrass band. They're always there, kind of complimenting, but never overpowering whatever else is going on. He does that with his Stratocaster. And
who plays organ? There's some great organ.
The keyboard guy. I hadn't worked with him before, but I'm talking to my friend Dave Ferguson, who's the engineered a lot of my stuff and a great producer and artist in his own right. He said, "Oh, well, here's some numbers." He said, "Or you could call Rojas." I said, "Rojas, who's that?" He said, "Mike Rojas. He's just the best guy in town." I said, "Oh, well, I probably ought to call him." And he was the best. I struggled to get him to work it out. He had to cancel, and then we rebooked it another day. We got it together. He came in for one day, and he overdubbed on one thing, and then he nailed the other stuff that we recorded that day. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's very inspiring to me. Those guys kind of get me juiced up. Yeah.
What about the first song is really, I think there's such a, I don't, what's the origins of that song? Because it's such a, it should be in some liturgical form right now in church.
Well, apparently that's an African proverb, when you pray, move your feet. I didn't know that. And I think William Douglas used it. A friend of mine, John McCutcheon, I played it for him. He said, "Oh, that kind of reminds me of, I guess St. Francis used to say, go out and preach the gospel and use words even sometimes if you have to." I like that. So in other words, you pray with your actions. You live your life as a prayer. And I loved seeing John Lewis, the TikTok video of him dancing to Pharrell Williams.
Yeah.
Happy.
Easy.
And there's this guy whose head's been beat in, nearly died for the cause. And he's still and he's dealing with heavy stuff on a daily basis throughout his entire life. And yet he can get up and dance to this song, And to me, that's, you gotta take it lightly or you could never survive. But, so it starts there. And of course, I was, read his story in his books, his illustrated books, graphic novels about March. And, when he died, like so many people like that are so influential when they die, you kind of even dig deeper into their story, into their lore and everything. And I saw that quote, "When you pray, move your feet." And I mean, really in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I had the lyrics. And I thought, well, geez, this is kind of a funny little song. And I asked some people if it was like some other song. And Sam Bush, he says, "Well, that sounds like another good Tim O'Brien song to me." It's like another song of mine. The music is like another song of mine called "Let Love Take You Back Again," which is more like a ballad. But anyway, what's funny about that song is I just tossed it off. But it's all kind of like, it's a love song. It's a love song for me and my wife. It's a love song for humanity too. And it's about, how to go. How to keep on keeping on. I mean, that whole record's kind of like that. We just need to keep at it. Yeah. It's a shit show, but we need to keep at it.
What's as for your wife who made you a lovely breakfast, what did she make you?
She made me an egg and some bacon and some toast.
Well, listen, I think you should eat, but we're having a meal together.
No, it's great.
Yes.
Work and art and everything. It's all.
By the way, and I've been playing guitar for 30 years and or more. And I tuned the mandolin. I can't put it down. And then 2 months later, I'm listening to your song "Rockin' My Shoe" because I'm trying to get the same like fiddle and mandolin thing going. And it's just you're the gift that keeps giving, because I'm gonna start copying all your licks.
Well, good. Take them. They're I've stolen from someone else. I mean, they're hand-me-downs, but they don't break, I think. So.
Okay. Lastly, I'm sure that the naming of a record is the last thing you do, unless you had it going in. Explain how you came to it.
Well, I was gonna call it Hindsight 2020, but but then I had the He Walked On. That was the last song that I wrote for the thing, and I just liked it. And I felt like, yeah, this is about the whole record kind of fits into that thing. And a title song is a good thing, I guess. That gives some people a cue.
Good. I'm gonna help sell some product for you.
Well, thanks.
Let's stay in touch. It was listen, it's a real honor talking.